Hello there. Welcome back to Reverence for Reverie. It's been a while. So it's been around 6, 7 weeks since I have been in here with you and entering this space with the words and rhythm that you had been used to. And like any true pause, this one held much more than stillness for me. It also held something really becoming in me and outside of me, really. So this reentry isn't just about like catching up with you. It's more about crossing a new threshold and doing it together. I firmly believe there are seasons where life really insists on quietness, on stillness, but not absence. It's just a different kind of presence, one that doesn't speak until it's been reshaped from the inside out. And what I'm thinking about here is even in the therapy room, when there is silence, it's not empty. It's often full of possibility, of meaning, of wisdom, and of answers if we allow ourselves to be with it. So I didn't stop showing up. I just ended up moving into, excuse me, a different frequency, a different aspect of my own becoming, and one that was not asking for explanation in the moment, just to be with it. And it was asking for expansion, truly. And during that time, that 6 or 7 weeks that I've been away, I have been immersed in something that really deeply changed me from the inside out. And that was the Resonance Rising Summit. It is what I had mentioned in my episode prior to this one about the pause that was coming. And the Resonance Rising Summit was a field, kind of like a portal, honestly, and a collaborative remembering. So over 20 speakers from across all different disciplines and dimensions were sharing their own energetic transmissions, wisdom transmissions from their own perspectives, from the edges of like psychospiritual leadership um and all different ways that they presented those. And not from a stance of like theory, but more as embodiment. They were sharing their stories, their wisdom, their own power, and they did it all with immense presence. We had voices from Africa, from Australia, from France, and from coast to coast in the US. It was astounding, the speakers, the roster that we put together. And each of them arrived not with like advice for anyone, not with strategy or formulas for what comes next or how to do XYZ, but genuinely with resonance. And I heard that feedback time and time again from the audience. I learned also that the name that had come to me, Resonance Rising, was certainly not in the slightest coincidental. It really meant something more, and it certainly set the tone for what was to come and what ended up being experienced throughout the summit. So together, we wove this global field of coherence. We had a wonderful turnout of audience members, and we were moving into the new paradigm of what leadership is becoming next. It was so powerful. It also opened up more places in me. For example, a deeper trust in our collective nervous system, and the power of the collective dream. This was a reminder for me that my work is not to try to shout louder over the noise of all of the marketing bros and, business gurus and whatever else that we come into contact with out there, but actually to attune and to just tune in more clearly to my own inner wisdom. It also reminded me the most powerful conversations aren't always happening in front of a microphone, which might be kind of obvious. Of course, I knew that on some level, but I had these fabulous conversations that were being recorded with all of the speakers, but it was also all of the in-between moments, the in-between conversations that were so beautiful, reminding me of the synchronicities and just, again, the interconnectedness of all of us. So that these conversations, the most powerful conversations, are happening really in the in-between, in those pulses that are just too subtle for performative ways of being, which I think is what we're outgrowing at this point. And they're also in the truths that we speak when we're not performing our readiness, when it's just flowing, when it's just coming from us. So what the summit showed me over and over and over is that we are not waiting to just become something. We're actually just remembering what we already are. It already lives there below the surface. We just have to clear the way. We have to clear what actually gets in the way of us remembering who we already are. When the noise is all cleared, when our field feels safe to inhabit. And the summit showed me that when you're really listening inwardly, again, going back to just that inward listening, attuning to your intuition, and when you follow the nudges of synchronicity, you will always be led exactly where you need to be. And even just to say that right now, I mean, that experience just puts me in such a state of awe and wonder with the universe. And that is one of the highest states of being from my perspective to inhabit. It is like elation and excitement and playfulness with the world that we live in. And I love it when I'm experiencing that. This summit it really held me in that state. Not all the time. I certainly was riding other waves of experience through this, but I encountered that time and time again. And I really hope, if there is one thing that I could hope for anyone who's listening to this, but really anyone in the world, is that they would have the chance to experience that as well. So now, with all of this expansion that's happened within me and more, there's much more that I'm still processing. I'm returning to Reverence for Reverie, this podcast, a little more in awe, a little more rooted, more expanded within myself, with more capacity to hold, and a little more attuned to what this space wants to be moving forward. So here is what you can expect from me going forward. I'm going to do some shorter transmissions, which I was kind of transitioning into before the previous pause. But just when I say transmissions, I think energy transmission, but it's also through voice, riffing, just kind of what comes to mind. And it may not always be with a quiet background. Something that I'm recognizing is that my riffs and reveries often come at times that aren't always convenient for pulling up my podcast microphone and starting there. So sometimes they happen on drives. I do a lot of driving, commuting. I live kind of far from the city. So on my drives into work, or maybe even at like a game with my children or something like that, that if that starts to come through, it's helpful if I can just pull out a voice memo. So you might get some background noise or things like that. And I just want you to know to expect that could be a part of this as well. I'll also be doing just some more symbolic explorations. That's becoming a theme that I think is really important, is starting to orient ourselves to the symbolism that exists around us. And that when we are picking up on something that is actually our unconscious, or another, neuroscientific way of saying it, it is the reticular activating system. There's something about that that is being metabolized. And if we can start to attune to that, we can start to understand our interconnectedness with everything, but also the connection to ourself and our own intuition and what we might actually be moving through at that time. And then occasionally there's also going to be just conversations with other visionaries or leaders or people in general, creatives, mystics who are holding their own fields of becoming, not just like formulas and strategies. And you'll get all of this always with a tone of reverence for the psyche, for our soul, and as I'm demonstrating here, for the silence that exists in the in-between of all of those things. So if you've joined me for the summit, you found your way here, welcome. I am so happy that you're joining us. This is where those summits the summit ripples will end up continuing, and where the resonance can deepen. And we're also not just talking about leadership or business or strategy in traditional ways, but it's more about what we're listening to. What is our soul asking of us right now? What does it mean to lead right now? What is leadership of a new paradigm asking of us right now? So again, thank you so much for joining us. And if you've been here with me since the beginning, oh my goodness, thank you for trusting this pause and for knowing that rhythm matters much more than routine. And not all returns are meant to look like a comeback. This one is meant to feel like a crossing of a threshold and moving into a new era. And I really feel like I'm doing a lot of that lately. My bet, chances are that if you've found your way here and you resonate with my message, then you probably have as well. There's also going to be more coming from me. And before I go forward with that, I really do encourage you to sign up to my email list, which will be linked in the show notes. I'll soon be hosting a soul circle, which is a masterclass, but I like to name it a soul circle. And it's more than that, though. It is also for those ready to be led by the frequency of their becoming. So if the summit stirred something in you, and if this reentry feels like recognition for your soul, and maybe you're ready to walk with others who are feeling that same sort of quiet ache for their own truth, then that masterclass is definitely for you. I'd love to see you there. It's where we're beginning again, and we're not going to stay at the surface. We're going to deepen, go further into the soul, the heart of everything. You can find the wait list in the show notes for that as well. For now, again, I'm just filled with gratitude. I want to thank you for being here, for listening with me through the pause, and for remembering that presence is enough. In fact, it is all that we need in any given moment. Every pause carries wisdom. Every return carries a new presence. And I am so grateful that you're here as we cross this threshold together. So until next time, stay with the signal. Let it rewire you. Of course, let the reverie lead you, and I will meet you there.